because with Hakomi, we're constantly working, if we're working in a way that's in line with the principles, we're constantly working in a way that is deeply relational, but also we are not in charge or coming with our set agendas around where the therapy should go. We're actually having to sit back, hold a very safe container, and allow and trust the unconscious on and the wisdom of that individual to emerge. And that is no different than how psychedelics medicines, when used safely and appropriately, should work. So it's been a beautiful marriage, I guess, to see, oh, no wonder Hakomi works, because you can see what happens when we allow the person's innate wisdom, the person's deeper self to emerge, no different to what happens when the medicine is held and supported in a safe environment. Have to work in teams of dyads. So there's often a therapist or a psychologist, psychotherapist, paired with a psychiatrist or a medically trained doctor. Now, this is a huge shift from a lot of us who've been working independently as therapists. And this is a huge shift for a potential client or participant, because we've got that three-way dynamic. So I believe the skills that and the practice that we get at being able to recognize our own nervous system and our own relational capacity as a Hakomi therapist provides this ideal window, if you like, window of modeling, window into what potential relational safety could look like. And it's going to be complex, because there's a participant's relationship, but there's also the two therapists' relationship, and how do they each align and misalign, which, as we know, misattunement is part of attunement process. And how do we catch that? How do we know that? And this is where I see the Hakomi skills of this ability to, it's not so much an ability, it's a capacity and a honing and an awareness of, well, what's our nervous system offering? Are we mindful? And the way the mindfulness in Hakomi isn't to quieten down the system and be a stress relief and just practice this once a day and, she'll be right. It's actually the exact medicine that we rely otherwise on in psychedelics. We use that mindfulness as a window or an access tool into the unconscious. So if our therapists aren't mindful, we can't offer the best environment for our participants or our clients to reach into these more unknown places. When we're not getting a lot of other cues, and that is what is different. Obviously, if there's eye shades on, the room is dark, you can't move your body in the same way when you're under the effect of the medicine.
Right.
And so knowing how to track that, those cues, looks different. In addition to the recognition of unknown expansive space or uncharted consciousness areas, we're needing some really solid, safe relational containers. Now, a lot of our training for psychology in Australia has been more on the clinical lens, which is a great grounding, but it doesn't necessarily give us the practice, the skill to delve into some of the more psychotherapeutic, psychodynamic aspects of this kind of work. And this kind of work demands it. I now have much better access to what to look for, what's happening in me. I'm not saying this is what's happening in the client, but if I'm getting that data from me, it helps with much more precision and safety on how to shape my response of how to sit, how to hold the space, when to intervene, when not to intervene, and also when to support your dyad partner, because we've also, all had our own conditioning. We've all got different experiences, and if our nervous system isn't working in an attuned way, that client will pick up on it, no doubt, even if they can't verbalize it. And that could be such a wasted opportunity. The other thing that I love about Hakomi is that we keep the professionalism there at all times, but we meet behind the roles. Now, a lot of people, when they meet behind the roles, they drop the professionalism, and that's where there's been boundary crosses and so forth. And the boundaries do change on that day, on the dosing day, they have to change. But then how do we not shut away these clients that are so open afterwards and they want to connect? But how do we do that in a way that is in their best interest, as well as legally understood by our registration paradigm? But what I love with Hakomi is the attention and awareness of the non-violent principle, obviously adapted from Buddhist wisdom. So ancient Eastern philosophies are skillfully attuned to, so that the therapists know, as in the psychedelic setting, when the participant or when the client needs someone to help take them maybe past a block or a barrier, but in a way that would be so trusting of the unconscious unfolding, rather than in a well-meaning or well-intentioned action. It doesn't come with the same sort of violent assertiveness that other methods maybe don't recognize can have the effect of. And I've seen where this hasn't gone well, and I've heard about it because the therapists weren't comfortable with the non-verbal. So as you said, Susan, so often the psychedelics will take people to the non-verbal period, even prior, and this, like in gestation, and the non-violence principle here doesn't mean no action, and being able to feel into what it's like to have these uncomfortable growth edges and not have them alone this time.
That's right.
Yeah. And if the therapist isn't comfortable with the uncomfortable and the trust in the unity and the unfolding, will they step back? Will they step forward? How do we do that? That, like you said, Manuela, how do we hold that space?
That's where I like to call the Hakomi training really a becoming training. You're becoming Hakomi therapist rather than you're taking a training and you're doing Hakomi. It's a becoming process because it's so much self-awareness required. Because in those moments, especially in psychedelic work, when it's like, oh, is the client distressed? Are they having a trauma experience? What should I do? There's also kind of sitting back, what's actually happening in my own nervous system? Let me see, where's this impulse that wants to go in there and make them feel better? Can I trust this moment as well, right? So there's a lot of that discernment that the psychedelic Hakomi therapist has to really be with present all the time. It's a lot of inner work. Well, thank you, Emily, for all this beautiful work that you've been doing and continue to do. And we're really delighted to have you be part of this training. And we also are excited to have you all welcome and join us in the upcoming Hakomi psychedelic training in Australia. So thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Very rich. I appreciate it. Yeah.